One thing that we really need to address is the systems and class design of Classic Plus in the context of Classic Plus is quite literally right around the corner. This isn't even like a what if or a haha. Even if it gets delayed till Q1 2027, it's coming out Q1 2027. I don't give a shit about the people in the comments going, it's coming out after Wrath. It's not. It's not coming out after Wrath. Just wait at BlizzCon. You'll see. You're wrong. I'm right. Now, anyways, now that we've got that out the way, Classic Plus is coming out within the next, in this context, 9-ish months, 8-ish months. And we need to really deep dive the systems and class design, because a lot of people say they want the spirit of vanilla. But nobody plays World of Warcraft Classic in this context with the vanilla spirit. So we're gonna deep dive the class philosophy initially and go into depth about what it means for the modern philosophy versus the original intent behind vanilla World of Warcraft. And I'm gonna open that up with how the game was meant to be played. The journey was way more than the end game. The journey of vanilla WoW was drastically more important than raiding at the end game. The journey, the community, the friends, the world, the feeling alive and a part of that experience was the core tenet of vanilla World of Warcraft. It's why it was a global phenomenon. It was a second life to many people. Keep in mind that a lot of people tried Molten Core, a lot of people tried Onyxia. They weren't as inaccessible as people make it out to be. But raiding wasn't the end-all be-all. Raiding, while important, was a specific strand of the game, not the entire strand. Which then brings us to the modern way that people play vanilla World of Warcraft or Classic WoW in this context. And that is in a very retail-esque gameplay systems. Classic players can hate retail players all they want. But Classic players play retail in the exact same way that retail WoW players play retail WoW. Now, when it comes to retail WoW players, they love the game in their own way. Whether it's a Mythic Plus player or a Mythic Raider or a Heroic Raider or a Collector or someone that just goes out and about and does specific things in the retail world. They maximize their time and the efficiency of the game world. The people that are collecting in retail WoW play collecting to a very efficient manner. 7-8 alts, grinding the exact same raid, looking for that one piece, that one mount. We have had people, farming Invincible for 10 years, or Invisible as people like to call it. You have people farming, Garrosh and Shoulders until Mists of Pandaria Classic came out. So people got out of the way to play the game in the particular way that they need in a very efficient manner. And if you look back at 2019's launch, a huge majority of the player base actually played the game in the vanilla spirit versus the latter half of vanilla WoW or 2019 Classic. The player base started playing to an efficient manner in the same way a retail WoW player would. When you look at a Mythic Plus player, it's the right composition, the right tank, the right healer, the right person for this particular dungeon. I'm trying to maximize my Raider IO, I'm doing a Mythic raid, I'm doing a Heroic raid, I need this, this, and this. You need to play this, you need to do this, you need to be efficient. Your class is dog shit, re-roll. And because it's so fast level, people just re-roll. In Classic, while people are running warrior after warrior after warrior to make the game, and I know there's gonna be people in the comments saying, well, not my guild. That's not how I played. I know there's a huge portion of Classic players, the hardcore players in particular, who played the game in a very chill, down-to-earth, very vanilla spirit-esque type of way. But vanilla spirit is dead for the most part. The original design intentions for Classic, for the game, is done. And this looks, and if you look at the class philosophy, you can see that. Everybody can say all they want that, I don't play a warrior because, it's the best, I just like warrior. As soon as TBC rolled around, all those warrior players were not playing warrior anymore. They were suddenly warlocks or hunters, until it turned out that warriors were actually Giga Chads and the people went back to being warrior because post-nerf content. And all I'm trying to say is, it's okay to be efficient, but you can't want the spirit of vanilla and be a retail player. It's a mockery on what vanilla World of Warcraft means. And the class philosophy is quite literally that. When it comes to Classic Plus, are they going with the modern intent the modern design philosophy of making every class relatively balanced. Some class will be better in a certain phase and they'll nerf it, then the next class will be better in a different phase. Or are they going to go with the original intent where some classes are PvP based, some classes are PvE based, some classes can do this, some classes can do that, some classes are support classes? Because they wanted every class to be viable in all content. They literally said this in multiple interviews, that the fact that Classic WoW or Vanilla WoW is so unbalanced was never the intention. It's just how players made the game end up being. But for Classic Plus, how Vanilla is versus how the modern player base is, how do you go down that divide, that class philosophy, that split on Vanilla? Because in my personal opinion, I think Vanilla WoW or Classic Plus needs to be complete. Every class needs to be viable in PvE. Some classes can be better than others, but every class should be bringable. You should have a Boomkin, an Enhancement Shaman, an Elemental Shaman. You should be able to bring a Shadow Priest. You should be able to bring one of everything and not impact your raid. You shouldn't need 11 Warriors or 7 Warlocks or 14 Hunters. You should be able to bring a varied roster that contributes to your guild, and having that varied roster is better than having 11 of the best DPS. And I want the devs to make that change. And now for some people that might not be Vanilla WoW. That might be a retail type system. And you know what, maybe I'm a retail player based on that definition. But I think for Classic Plus, the spirit of Vanilla is dead unless the devs force the game to be played with the vanilla intention and design, which means no world buffs, which means no consume meta, which means bringing the person, not the class. And I don't know if the devs can fix the community issue on that front. So they'll have to make the game balanced. Which then brings me on to the fourth point here. Where does the player base stand? When I look at a lot of classic Andes or era Andes, a lot of them say the same thing. The devs got lucky, Vanilla WoW was a fluke, they can't repeat this, they shouldn't even touch the game. But the way era players play era, or any kind of vanilla private server, I honestly think the devs would literally be shocked, the vanilla devs. If you showed a vanilla dev how the modern classic players play classic or vanilla, I think they'd be shocked. In fact, if people were playing vanilla WoW back in 2004 and 5 the way they're playing classic now, the devs would have nerfed the game and balanced it and done a shit ton of patches to address the way people were playing the game. So in my opinion, I think the devs do not agree. I can't speak for them. I'm not a dev. I don't sit there and talk to the devs. I'm not in like a fucking Zoom call with the devs going, "Yo, Agron, what do you think?" Or John, Tim Jones, or Clayton, or any of the devs, right? I don't think any of them are going to outright say we think the modern player base plays like ass and this is a terrible way to play the game. But I personally believe that the devs don't like it because SOD. Every class was viable in SOD. Phase to phase, patch to patch, there was a lot of changes, a lot of balancing. Which then brings me on to 5. If the spirit of vanilla is dead, what is Camelot / Classic Plus based on? And I genuinely think it's based on a TBC / Wrath class philosophy of not being as fast paced as Wrath or TBC, but being far as fuck from vanilla. If there was a slider, a scale where 10 is retail and 1 is vanilla or 2019 classic, and then let's say 5 is Wrath, and 7 or 8 is mop / warlords, and then the higher up you go, the more retail it gets. I believe Camelot is a 4. 3 is TBC, 5 is Wrath. And I think Classic Plus will have the class philosophy of proto TBC, proto Wrath, scaled down to level 60. At least that's what I believe, but I can't say that is correct. Because you can see how so many classic players absolutely fucking loved Ascension. With the 21 new classes, the 21 new, dozens, 70 new specs, all the things. So based off that, I genuinely think there is going to be a bridge between vanilla and retail. And I think it's going to be a bridge that is going to piss off a lot of era players. I think that is okay, because I don't think Classic Plus should be made for era players. Because era players would have raged and quit the game and gone back to era anyways. I'm not saying era players don't deserve to have their game, to have their game mode, to have their version of the game. I think era should stay untouched. All the UI changes, all this extra stuff added to era, I don't give a shit that it's been added there. I don't play era. I don't think it matters. But for the era players who are stuck on that 2004 or 2019 philosophy, just let them have it. Let them have their old game mode and ignore them. But Classic Plus, Camelot, should not be designed around people who want no changes. It needs, based off TWoW, based off Ascension, based off how so many people adore these private servers, it needs to be based on hashtag quite a lot of changes. A lot of changes. Because retail WoW is too far for me. I think retail WoW is a great game for the retail players. I don't play it. I'm like level 82 or 83 in Midnight WoW, whatever the level cap is. I think it's like 90 now. I didn't really get through. I couldn't get into it too well, and then, you know, IRL shit happened, so I left it there. I'll get back into it eventually. My chat's trying to boost me to like 3K IO. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm an E-man. I'm like all the E-girl streamers. I'm gonna get boosted. I don't give a shit. I'm getting boosted. I'm getting carried by a fuck ton of mythic raiders who, instead of wanting to carry all these pretty e-girls, they're sitting in a hairy Middle Eastern man's Twitch chat waiting to carry me in retail instead. They don't care about getting hoes. They're trying to get bros. Retail's a far cry from what I want. But vanilla is a far cry from what I want. I do not want to go into a 2004 version of the game. I think if vanilla Classic Plus is literally 2004 or 2019 with new raids and a couple of new zones is dead, I think the game will genuinely be a flop. Nobody wants to play warriors again. No one wants the meta to be 700 warriors and all this BS. There needs to be a lot of changes to make the game feel better. And maybe that makes me a non-vanilla, a non-classic player. Maybe that makes me a LARPer. But I think for the health of Classic Plus, for the health of Camelot, the class philosophy has to be modernized without going all the way to retail or SOD. But it can't be vanilla or TBC. I think Wrath is too far, and I think vanilla is way too little, and I think TBC is not enough. So it needs to be post-TBC, pre-Wrath, in that ballpark. Which then takes me onto, from the class philosophy to the systems philosophy of modern retail systems versus finishing the vanilla systems. Because the systems of vanilla WoW have to evolve. And 1 and 2 are both kind of like the same point in the context of modern systems like retail's PvP track, Mythic Plus, the raiding tiers. You have looking for raid, normal, heroic, mythic. To have the collectors, to have all the different systems, the different ways to play the game versus vanilla. Because vanilla is a game about the journey, and then when you finish the journey, it's about raiding and experiencing the end. Vanilla was never meant to be finished. So for vanilla WoW to go back to the unfinishable game, they would actually have to modernize the game to make it unfinishable. Because the whole point of vanilla is not being able to finish it. So if the devs try to finish it, and the only thing they add is new zones, new raids, new dungeons, new zones, this is just vanilla with extra steps. The zones are important, the raids are important, the unique story, the alternate timeline is important. But the systems are absolutely just as important to the future and the health of a Classic Plus. So based off that, in my personal opinion, we need achievements. We need heroic or heroic plus. We need normal raid and heroic raid. I don't think we need better raid gear like retail does. I think heroic should be 20-person cap, so no more than 20 people, and you get 1 extra loot piece per boss, and then the weapons have a shiny effect like Season of Discovery. Whereas normal is up to 40 people. It's a flex raid, and there's just, 3 pieces per boss and no shiny effect. And for the people that clear in heroic mode, there's like a 70% chance or a 50% chance of like the mount dropping from heroic mode only, and on normal mode you don't get a chance at the mount. I think that is the best way to do Classic Plus, for raiding at least. For dungeons, I truly believe we need a heroic/heroic plus system. Again, I'm not a fan of the Mythic Plus system of the gear getting better and better. I think heroic plus should be everyone gets a default gear for their class. You can't change the gear, you can't change how powerful you are, how much raid gear you have. I think the whole point of heroic plus should be how high you can push. So a heroic 17 Scholar Mance needs everyone to be playing perfectly. And you don't get better gear. The reward is your skill expression. Being able to say, I cleared heroic 17 with the same gear that you're struggling heroic basic with, or heroic 0 with. And I think at the end of a season, assuming there's a seasonal track or a seasonal bullshit, say every new raid tier, at the end of that season, you get a mount or a title for, you know, top 1% player, whatever the fuck, right? For your collections tab, your achievements, your feeder strength. I think letting classic players have an unfinishable version of the game that is an expression of skill and not an expression of how much you play the game is the best way to do it. Because I think Classic Plus needs these kinds of very gritty, difficult endgame grinds that the only reward is how sweaty and fat you are. Right? I think that's the best fucking way to design it. At least in my opinion. Now I know there's going to be a lot of people in my chat who literally say, Eben, fuck no. What the fuck are you talking about? That's just retail minus. And maybe my version isn't what the devs need to do. Maybe my version is too far from the spirit of vanilla. But the spirit of vanilla is dead. It's dead. There is no vanilla spirit. Genuinely hardcore was the closest we got to it. And even that's been maximized to a degree that's unhealthy. The modern spirit of vanilla means an unfinishable game. An unfinishable game means a game with endgame systems that is more than just raid logging. Which brings me up to 3 modern changes to make vanilla stand the test of time. Modern changes. Like I said, heroic plus, heroic raid with the mount and, you know, the shiny weapon effects versus flex raiding. Things of that nature, because it goes directly into step 4. Does the classic player base even want vanilla systems, aka the classic PvP progression? I helped a dozen people get rank 14 back in 2019-2020. I would rather kill myself than do that again. It is the genuine most dog shit PvP progression in any fucking game known to mankind. It does not reward skill. It does not reward like you personally for being a good player. The single reward is how fucking sweaty and degenerate are you that you can just sit there. Some sweaty man in a basement or sweaty woman in a basement choosing to play vanilla WoW for 21 hours a day does not make that a good PvP system. It was a hostage type situation of pure bullshit and I hated it. I will never do it again. And then the classic endgame raid philosophy is also completely and utterly dog shit. It is genuinely beyond subhuman that the whole point of vanilla PvP and vanilla raiding is raid logging and how sweaty you are. How many warriors you bring to the raid so you can min-max the speed. And that is not healthy. And I don't believe the player base wants that. Or maybe I'm on crack and the player base absolutely fucking wants that and just that and nothing but that. And you know what? If the player base wants that, that could be the case. But I'm gonna say, even if the vast majority of players want raid logging or classic PvP or vanilla PvP, I'm gonna veto that shit and say you fucking have a dog shit opinion, and that is terrible for the health of Classic Plus. Go to Era and enjoy it in Era. Don't bring that shit to a game that needs hashtag a lot of fucking changes. Which takes us into step 5. Force the players to play in vanilla versus making vanilla fun. Now, I put fun in quotes, not because fun is the wrong thing, but everyone's definition of fun is different. What I find fun is different than what an era player finds fun versus what a hardcore player finds fun, right? Like Grace for days, who literally laughed himself into mental insanity by acting like he liked hardcore, only to get griefed and die 17 fucking times. Well, 1700 times. And now he went on like a private server spree, lost his mind, got banned, is playing retail WoW now. Or Shobek leveling a new character to 60, bringing a very sus healer, dying, role-playing from 1 to 60 all over again. Like you know what, maybe people love that shit. Maybe people genuinely enjoy it. But leveling 1 to 60 700 times can't be fun. I've leveled 1 to 60 like 11 times. I think I would rather make love to a shotgun than do another 1 to 60 in the vanilla system. And so the devs need to make Classic Plus fun. I'm not saying level the game from, like, make the leveling super fast or make the leveling like drastically fast. I'm not saying slow the leveling down so people are forced to play the world. I'm saying that vanilla WoW doesn't work in the modern day and age because people don't play vanilla WoW in the way it's meant to be played. We'll use boosting as an example with the leveling. The amount of people who get boosted is way too high. It's like the discussion of everybody saying, I don't buy gold. I've never bought gold in my life. Yet the gold price in vanilla WoW or Classic 2019 onwards is the worst it's ever been. The prices are always increasing and people are always swiping, yet somehow nobody's ever bought gold. I wonder who it could be. And like that brings the problem of the player base is the issue with the systems of vanilla, because leveling itself should be fun. The world should matter and people should enjoy it. But we have personally ruined that journey by playing the game in a way that's anti-ethical. Whatever. You guys know the word I'm trying to say. I'm just stupid. It's not in tune with what vanilla WoW was meant to be. Same thing with the GDKP issue. They banned GDKP, but the swiping didn't go away because it is not a GDKP issue. Antithetical, thank you, Roth. It is not a GDKP issue or a gold buying issue. It is a player culture issue. So the point of 5 is force the players to play in vanilla. The players are paying to skip the leveling, to skip the grind, to skip the raiding. People are paying up the ass because the culture has shifted drastically. So the devs for Classic Plus have to go out of their way to force people to actually play the game. And I don't know if they can do that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you guys and say it's gonna be fucking easy. Just ban gold buying. That'll stop it. No, because the swipers are gonna swipe. My boy Ed, who's watching the video right now, I know for a fact that he's come back to vanilla WoW, Mr. Pandaria, whatever game mode, immediately pulled out his credit card because he has a fucking full-time job, spent $300, got him boosted, got the gear he wants, got whatever the fuck he wants, gets banned, and comes back on a new account 3 months later. It's genuinely a disgusting tumor on the game. 1 to 60 is very important. And it needs to be made fun again. It needs to matter. And they need to make the player base enjoy it. Fresh starts are so popular because people actually love the leveling. They love that beginning where the whole community is playing, where the whole community is enjoying the game, where everybody is playing together and thriving, and the low-level dungeons are active, and people are always around. There's always people doing stuff. You're in the Barrens, there's always people going for Wailing Caverns. Shadowfang keeps being run 24/7. The boosters aren't there yet. You feel like the world matters. Fresh is untainted. Fresh is amazing because the world is at its peak. Once the game gets out of Fresh and the devs don't address the core fundamental issues of gold buying and why people buy the gold, the game becomes stained. It becomes a mockery. But I could rant about this for 17 years, so I'm going to move on to point 6. Will it go down the old school RuneScape route, or will Blizzard make a new type of old school MMO when it comes to systems? In old school RuneScape, everything you do matters because you're grinding for a particular reason, and that reason could be whether you want your sailing, whether you want your fire cape, whether you want to like max out combat, whether you want to max out a particular profession, whether you're trying to farm gold or resources. Like, I don't play old school RuneScape, but I understand the fundamental reasons of why people play it. Or are they going to go with a more modernized version of Classic, where you have these retail type systems baked into the game, but with a vanilla tint on it, with a vanilla expression on it? And that's the hard discussion, because SOD was this weird amalgamation. SOD was like a bastard child of Wrath of the Lich King / MOP, baked into vanilla. It had some retail elements, some MOP elements, some, you know, it had elements of other versions of WoW just planted on top of vanilla, and like acted like that was, yeah, I mean, we're just trying things out. And it was a test. They said from the very beginning it's a test. So SOD isn't a great example, but Ascension isn't either. TWoW is what I would say is the closest definition of what a true Classic Plus would be, based on the original dev's intentions. But even TWoW, I don't think would thrive as the official game mode, because I think a lot of people, while they love a lot of the new raids and the design philosophy of TWoW, as soon as they change the balance to make the game slightly less vanilla and slightly more modernized, people threw a hissy fit. But then at the exact same time, they all jumped onto Ascension and they love the 21 new classes where they're playing as a fucking, like a Nubarak model, or they're playing as a fucking spider, or they're playing as a fucking demon, or all these really cool fucking things in Ascension. So I think when it comes to what the player base actually wants, I think Blizzard is fucked. I think there is no good answer, and I think no matter what they do, they're gonna piss off 50% of the player base, if not more. But they just have to put their heads down, make a version, and enjoy it. Whether people play or not is irrelevant. A game for everybody is a game for nobody. A game made for the entire fucking world is a game played by fucking no one. Make a game for the player base you want to make a game for, and then the other people will come to that game. And that is how you need to design Classic Plus. A game that is classic WoW, that just works in the modern era. And honestly, as simple as that sounds, good luck to the devs. So, we're gonna go down to the final point of the systems and class design of Classic Plus. How much do you steal from private servers? Now, this question is an interesting one, because I believe they need to steal a lot. And they need to steal a lot from private servers. Ascension did something very unique in the way that made a lot of classic players understand that the vanilla class design is dog shit. Like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna get a lot of error Andys in my chat calling me a LARPer. I'm gonna get a bunch of error players reacting to this, saying this guy's a retail player and this guy is not a real classic player. And that's fair. I'm not a classic player. I'm a guy that loves the lore and the world, not the fucking game, like the way the game itself plays. Because vanilla WoW's spirit is fucking dead. And I care about the spirit of vanilla. And that shit is gone. I hate raid logging. I hate the boost meta. I hate the gold buying. I hate how people raid. I hate how people raid log. I hate how people PvP. I don't like how people play classic WoW, and maybe that makes me a LARPer. And fuck it, I'm a LARPer, I guess. Classic Plus needs to be modernized. And I'll die on that hill. I don't want retail. Retail is also a game I'm not a big fan of. I should clarify. I'm not a big fan of retail. I don't play retail at all. And again, I need to reiterate for the third or fourth time on this video right here. Hardcore is the only version of vanilla with spirit. Genuinely just hardcore. No other version of vanilla WoW has that spirit. Hardcore is the only version that has that spirit. Now, let's go back to the how much do you steal from private servers. I would say it needs to be similar-ish to Wrath in terms of class design, but not as far as Wrath. I think, so if we put the private servers here, you've got TWoW, you've got Ascension, right? And Classic Plus is in the middle. I think in terms of world design and world philosophy, it needs to veer towards TWoW. I think in terms of combat and player like agency and how the game feels, it needs to veer slightly this way, but not as far as Ascension, because Ascension is just retail in a classic trench coat. So they need to go slightly closer to Wrath, but not all the way Wrath. It needs to be Wrath and TBC scaled down to level 60 and made to work where every class feels fun and fluid, where every class has agency, where every class has potential to be worthwhile and fun in a way that's not pressing one button. Because while TBC is better than vanilla, as a warlock, I'm pressing one button. I'm passing 99 and 96 and 92 and 94. Yeah, everyone's gonna be, oh my god, I've been passing high with a one button class. That's the fucking problem. Most of the classes in TBC are still one button. That's the problem. One button rotations are fucking dog shit. 12, 15 button rotations from retail before the squish, before the class balancing, is also dog shit. I think 5 to 6, button rotations is kind of like the smooth point. But again, I don't really play WoW to raid log. I don't really play classic to raid log. I play because I love the lore. I love the world building. I played religiously from 2007 all the way till the end of Legion and very early BFA. I only skipped Mr. Pandaria until I moved to Classic. Because I care about the world and the story and the characters, and that got progressively more dog shit in retail. I don't even know what's happening in the lore now. I see some trailers, I see some footage, and I go, yeah, I'm not playing that. But again, that's just where I'm at with it. So let's go down to how much to steal from old school RuneScape and the other MMOs. Honestly, a lot. They need to go back to what made WoW great in the first place. WoW was notorious for taking the best features, the absolute best features from other MMOs and implementing them in their own game. WoW would kill MMOs by looking at what made them successful, taking their best feature, adding it to their own game, and that other MMO dying. So Classic Plus, steal from old school RuneScape. Steal from other MMOs, other private servers, just steal. Steal the best features that everybody unanimously loves. Be a thief. Blizzard is great at that. And then the final point. Horizontal progression is not real, so how to make vertical feel horizontal. And I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. The horizontal progression debate, I've made a few videos on this, and people keep saying it, they keep spamming a horizontal progression. Play Guild Wars 2, then quit in 3 months. You do not want horizontal progression. Anyone that says they want horizontal progression is full of shit. It does not exist in MMO. A horizontal progression MMO is Guild Wars 2. You finish the game and you're done. For a game to be horizontal, you finish Molten Core, you don't play a Blackwing Lair, AQ, Nax, Karazhan, you don't play SSE or Tempest Keep. You come back at Black Temple, and your Molten Core gear is still fucking relevant and still works and is still the best gear in the game. It does not work. What you all say you want when you say horizontal progression is vertical progression cosplaying horizontal, where the vanilla power curve is like this, right? You start here, and it goes up slowly. This is Molten Core. This is level 60, pre-Beast raid. This is Molten Core. This is Blackwing Lair. This is AQ40. This is Nax. But what happens with TBC is Karazhan, SSE, Black Temple, and you start going higher and higher. For Classic Plus, it needs to start here. It needs to go Prebis, Molten Core, Black Temple, new raid tier, AQ, new raid tier, Nax, new raid tier, 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 new raid tier. It shouldn't be that a Molten Core player can't enter an AQ. It should be that a Molten Core player's gear is kind of shit for AQ, so they need to do some ZG, some catch-up raids to get slightly better off pieces to be more desirable for an AQ. But a Molten Core player can't come back from phase 1 and come back phase 11 and still have relevant gear. He might have one BIS piece that's still relevant 17 raid tiers later. Maybe one ring, or a belt, or a trinket. But every other piece of gear has to be effectively no. And that's the thing. You need to cosplay. But that molten core gear should be relevant up until Nax to a degree. You should be able to enter a Nax with molten core gear. You'll be dog shit, you'll be at the bottom of the barrel, but you won't be a fresh player. And that's the thing with horizontal progression, is it doesn't exist in a meaningful way in any modern MMO. Guild Wars 2 is the only game that does horizontal, and everybody plays it, and then they quit, and then they come back a year later, they play the new expansion, they play 2 months, they get what they want, they experience the story, the new game systems, the new mounts, and then they quit. I don't want that for Classic Plus. Again, the devs, don't listen to me. Look at the statistics. Look at what has high player retention without it being like a treadmill that forces people to keep playing. And then make a game based on that. Make a game that the player base fucking wants. That's not a rat race of bullshit. That is the vanilla spirit restored. That is a game that people want to log in to earn play. That brings back the 2019 vibe, the 2004 vibes. Make a game that is the perfect dream game that everybody wants without making any mistakes and fucking up at all. And deliver this game in the next 3 to 6 months. Thank you very much. Anyways, if you guys like this bullshit rant, like and subscribe. If you hated it, I don't give a shit. Dislike and subscribe. Hate my video. Leave a creative comment. Leave a comment that's more than get a job. I have a full-time job. It's a good fucking job. Be creative. Like, insult me in a way that's actually a personal attack that's got meaning and value. Like, come on. Pick at a character flaw or a trait. Like, hit me with something good instead of just, hey dude, get job. Hey dude, you're fat. Yeah, most classic players are fat. Have you seen Jurdy? He's 700 pounds. Like, pick a creative insult. Thank you guys. Ebenhard out. Peace.